The telephone town hall is now ready to begin. It's my pleasure to introduce Nashville School Board member Will Pinkston. Mr. Pinkston served as a top aide to Governor Phil Bredesen and helped write the policies that made Tennessee the fastest improving state in the history of the nation's report card. He is a graduate of Metro Nashville Public Schools, and he's a public school parent. Will Pinkston has represented South and Southeast Nashville on the school board since 2012. Mr. Pinkston.
Thank you, and please call me Will. I am honored to join Mayor Megan Berry this evening to update our constituents on Metro Nashville Public Schools and the search for the next director of schools. As our moderator noted, I represent South and Southeast Nashville on the school board, which is a very large geographic area, so we decided to organize this telephone town hall as a way to communicate efficiently and all of us to interact from the comfort of our own home or office. I'm going to provide some brief opening remarks and then hand over the call to Mayor Berry to share her thoughts, and then we'll open up the call to questions. And we'll try to wrap up this town hall around 7:15 p.m. Mayor Berry, could I go ahead and turn this forward to you a little bit and talk about the director's search?
Sure. Thank you, Will. And first of all, let me just say I really appreciate your friendship, and I really appreciate the service that you give to the school board. I know you have a deep passion for public education, or believe me, I know you wouldn't do this. So, as Will mentioned, I am really deeply committed to making sure that we are expanding our high-quality universal pre-K offerings in Nashville. I talked a lot about that when I ran for office, because we really do know that after years of research, early childhood education is one of the single most effective investments that we're going to ever make in public education. And giving our kids that start with pre-K, I believe, is really critical. It improves our literacy rates. It ensures that our kids are reading at grade level by third grade. And long-term, it's really going to help us break that school-to-prison pipeline. You know, there's a lot of really good things going on with our public school system. Our high school graduation rate's up, but it definitely isn't where it needs to be in order to make sure that all of our children in Nashville have that opportunity to go out and earn a good living one day and be successful. So I'm also very focused on connecting youth to hope. And for me, that means connecting them to opportunity by connecting them to jobs. So I really applaud the school board and Will, all the work that you do, and all the coalitions of community organizations out there who right now are really focused on reducing the rate of suspensions and expulsions in our school system, especially when we're talking about young men and women of color. But taking a different approach to discipline in the schools is an important component to reduce violence and make sure that all of our students are prepared. But there's a lot more for us to do. And there's a lot of other priorities I know I can talk about. But, Will, I tell you what, I know we're here to talk about the director search tonight, so I'm going to turn it back over to you. And why don't you kick us off on that?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Berry. And I want to just reiterate a couple of things. You know, I'm in my nearly 30-year association with Metro Nashville Public Schools, first as a parent, as a student, later as a parent, and now as a board member, I am as optimistic as I've ever been about the future of the school system. I say that recognizing that we've got a lot of big challenges in front of us, and there's a lot of work left to do before we can achieve the kind of world-class school system that we all want. But I view every challenge as an opportunity, a chance to improve and do better, and I'm proud to fight for our students, parents, teachers, and taxpayers, and we are making a difference. A couple of quick statistics. Our high school graduation rate is now at 82%. That's 82%, which is up nearly 20 points since 2005.
You know, well, that's huge.
Yes, that is, and there are a lot of reasons for those gains, but it's still not, as we both know, not good enough, not
right
where it needs to be, and we won't stop until every student is ready for a career, college, and life. The mayor mentioned pre-K, pre-kindergarten offerings. There are still, as much good work as we've done expanding pre-K, there are still more than 2,000 families stuck on pre-K waiting lists,
Yep.
and we promise you that we're not going to stop until every 4-year-old whose family wants a spot in pre-K gets one. It's going to take a while, but that's the commitment. And I think the other thing I wanted to mention, representing South and Southeast Nashville, where our immigration corridors are located, right now about 16% of our students are learning English as a second language. Another 10% have only limited English proficiency. What this means is that nearly 1 in 4 of our students are struggling with language acquisition. As a board member, I have asked for, and our central office has responded with new strategies for helping English learners, including language-intensive after-school programs, and we won't stop until we're sure that we're delivering high-quality education services to all students, including our youngest new Americans. So I want to go back to the director's search and and talk about that before I hand this back to Mayor Berry. The MNPS director's job is a big one. This is a school system with an $810 million annual operating budget.
Is that all? Is that all it's going to be this year?
It might be a little higher next year, Mayor. That makes us about 42% of metro government. We have 86,000 students, and unlike other urban school systems, we're growing, which is a testament to our vibrant economy and the exceptional quality of life in Nashville. We have 10,000 employees in Metro Nashville Public Schools, including about 6,000 teachers who are doing the most important work in our community. So the director search has taken longer than any of us anticipated, but as a board member, and I know my colleagues agree, we are committed to doing it right, not doing it fast. And we are lucky to have a partner in Mayor Megan Berry. So, Mayor Berry, can I turn this back to you? And I would love to hear the story about your first full day on the job as mayor and what we all did together.
Well, yeah, absolutely, Will. Thank you. And I think it's important for the folks who are listening to know that so much of what we do in government is about partnerships. And the partnership between the mayor's office and the school board is key to making sure that we get the right person in that seat for our next superintendent. So the board, which is led by Chairwoman Sharon Gentry and Vice Chairwoman Anna Shepard, they reached out to me. They reached out to Vice Mayor David Briley and also a coalition of community groups. They asked for assistance in the director search. So what we did is then we put together a search advisory committee to answer some of those key questions, of course, about what kind of a person do we really need to be looking for. And what do we actually need to do on our side to compete for that talent? And, well, I have to tell you, it was a pretty extraordinary moment. Over the years in metro government, there's always been this tendency for us to work in silos. That includes the mayor's office, that includes the school board. So the fact that we're all coming together on this, I think, speaks volumes about who we are as a community. And this board, led by Dr. Gentry, and with the support from great members like you, really broke down a lot of those walls and barriers by acknowledging that all of us, not just metro government, but the broader community, actually needed to play a role in our public education system. So, I actually got my start in politics as a PTO leader and a public school parent, so I really get how important public education is. It's that true great equalizer that's going to make sure that all of our kids get that best shot in life. And it's also our most important democratic institution. I used to talk about that all the time on the campaign trail. You can't have a democracy if you don't have a great public education. So I'm really grateful for you all in the process. So here's where things stand. We all got together. We agreed that we needed to do this as a community. We needed all these great partners around the table. So in February, we created a search advisory committee, and we had already put together. And then in February, they came back and presented recommendations to the school board. And I was grateful that unanimously the school board approved them. The board then voted to hire a search firm to go out and recruit candidates for the position. And, that search firm was also a really important hire to make. And it's led by Jim Huey. He's a former educator. He went out and listened to our community partners, and he is really directing the search for what we want based on the qualities and characteristics that we believe should happen. And then the Nashville Public Education Foundation stepped in. They've helped with online surveys, significant outreach. We've gotten all this input from teachers and parents. And Jim is out there recruiting candidates all the time. And he's given regular updates to you guys, I know, over on the school board. And at the board's request, the foundation decided to continue the ongoing support of the board for the search. Now, I want to make sure that folks on the call understand that Jim's not just waiting for resumes to come flying over the transom. We are actively going after highly qualified people and making sure that they know about this opportunity. I really believe that it's very possible that the next school director doesn't even know he or she wants to come to Nashville. So the board's going to have a slate of potential director candidates by late April or sometime in May. And for my part, I've really communicated to Will and to others on the board that I'm here to help for as little or as much as you want. If I need to pick up the phone and help recruit a candidate, if I need to get on a plane to close a deal, I'm totally happy to do that. But at the end of the day, it's really clear. This decision is made by the 9-member elected school board, and that is their responsibility, and I completely respect their authority, and I appreciate their service. I know that being on the school board is no easy task, Will, and so I'm grateful every day that you do this. So let me turn it back over to you so we can open this up to the next kind of conversation.
Great. Thank you, Mayor, and thanks again for the partnership. It truly means a lot. So let's take some questions and have a little bit of a conversation here. We've got some time remaining on this call, and moderator, please open the call to questions. I'll advise the participants on the call, please press 0 if you have a question you'd like to ask the mayor or me about public education or the director's search. And operators, please build the queue of questions, and we'll get started in a second. While we're waiting on those questions to compile, I do want to make a quick note about a position paper that I've written, which you can find online, called What We Need from the Next Director of Schools. It's a 4-page document that really started out as my effort as a board member to write a list of bullet points about what I wanted the next director of schools to know when I get the opportunity to sit down and interview him or her here in the next few weeks. And by the time I got through with it, I had written a long essay, and I thought, I just ought to go ahead and publish this for my constituents, which goes through my different priorities as a board member, including pre-kindergarten English learners, community engagement, early grade reading intervention. I had a teacher tell me not too long ago that if I give her a third grader who can read at grade level, by the time he or she gets there, then she will give us a high school graduate. So I believe literacy at our early grades is critical. And you can find my position paper online at www.mnpsnext.org. For some of you, that may have been the web address you used to register for this call. And again, www.mnpsnext.org if you're at a computer right now or later. And I think we've got a question ready to go from Lynn in the downtown and Germantown area.
Is Lynn actually going to join us on the call, or are we?
Yes.
Oh, wonderful. I love this technology. It's very cool.
Okay, Lynn, are you there?
Okay. Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you so
Lynn.
much for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having me. I'm glad to speak with both of you, Mayor Berry and Pinkston. My question is, I know that you're representing and you're partially representative of the district in Antioch and South Nashville. But it's strange that this town meeting in one of the most diverse districts in our city doesn't have any Latino African American leaders on this call. And I'm interested to find out why the other school board representative, Thais Hunter, isn't on the call. And I'd also like to know, as far as with the way the school board members were attacking one another this year, it was embarrassing, because I know that the district that I live in, the school board member was actually verbally, personally attacked. And that does not sit well as far as a representation of what the voters want to see, nor does it show professionalism. And as somebody's looking for someone to come in to run the district, we need to be unified, and we need to show that we can work together, even if we have different ideas.
Yeah. Thanks, Lynn, for the question. And, I agree. I think one of the things that the board demonstrated last summer in the first round of the search is that we do have the ability to huddle together as a group and make big decisions that are in the best interest of the school system. Now, the school board is a democratic body, and there are going to be disagreements, just like there are in the council sometimes, like there are in the legislature, like there are in Congress. And that's, to an extent, that's a healthy part of the process. But we are working our best most days as a 9-member team to get done what's in the best interest of the school system.
Let me chime in on this, because I think that this director search is a great example of the school board coming together and saying, look, we need to move this in the right direction. We all need to be focused on bringing the best person in. And I think at the end of the day, everybody that I come across on the school board wants what's best for our kids. And that's what this, I think, it demonstrates.
That's right. Thank you, Mayor. We'll take the next question, but let me remind participants, please press 0 if you have a question you'd like to ask the mayor or me about public education or the director's search, and our operators will get you in the queue. So
Thank you. We're going to go ahead and turn the call to Vanessa Barnes.
It looks like Vanessa is from the Whites Creek area.
Whites Creek area.
So while we're waiting on Vanessa, I think it is interesting that when we talk about the diversity in our community, that we are seeing tremendous diversity. I know that tonight I just left the Metro Council where we were doing some board and commission appointments, and I got to tell you, we have such great young, new energy in this town of people who want to serve on our boards and commissions, and our boards and commissions are starting to look a lot like Nashville. So I'm really excited about that.
Vanessa.
Hello.
Hi, Vanessa. Thank you. You can go ahead and ask your question now to Mayor Berry or School Board Member Pinkston.
Okay. Hey, Will. Hey, Mayor Berry. My question is that I am so excited to make our Metro schools great again, as I'm a product of Metro schools. I am just really concerned that I now have my children in charter schools, but I so desire for them to be in Metro. In the search for this new director, is that going to be, I know he'll be new, but are we going to have to wait a few years for them to get their feet wet to start making our schools where it was at one point?
So, Vanessa, I just have to laugh because you used the pronoun he. I don't think we should necessarily assume that it will be a guy.
You're right. I didn't mean to say that. I called myself when I said that. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. I caught that too.
But I do share your concerns. We definitely want somebody who can come in here and hit the ground running, who we don't have to spend an inordinate amount of time getting them up to speed. And I think, Will talked a minute ago about this paper that he's got about what we're looking for. So, Will, I'm going to turn it over for you for a second.
Yeah, Vanessa, I think one of the things that has made charter schools, which for anyone on the call who doesn't know, charter schools are publicly financed but privately run schools, and I think one of the things that has made those schools appealing to some families is we do have schools, traditional public schools, that are struggling and that do need our attention, and they need it urgently. And one of the things that I'm going to be looking for in the next director of schools, whoever he or she is someone who is going to think and act with a sense of urgency, someone who's going to get up every day and go to sleep every night and think about what we're doing to intervene in our persistently struggling schools. As you know, or you may know, we have about a dozen schools that are so-called priority schools, designated by the state of Tennessee as some of the lowest performing schools in the state. That's not acceptable. Nashville, Tennessee in 2016 should have 0 schools on that priority list, and I'm going to be looking for the next director to quickly articulate a strategy for how we can provide high structured supports in those schools and others, reallocate resources as needed, and make sure that we're really thinking and acting with a sense of urgency. I know that sounds trite, but it all gets back to leadership and somebody who has the right experience level to get this job done. So that's, I hear you, and I know the mayor hears you, and we're going to work on it.
Thanks, Vanessa.
Thank you, Vanessa.
Thank you.
There is another caller here, Heather Kluss from Percy Priest.
Heather, are you on the line?
Heather?
Not one.
Okay.
Well, it looks like Heather's got
Heather is coming up.
Hi, Heather. I'm here. Hi.
Oh, great. Heather.
Hi. I wanted to say, number one, thank you so much for Smith Springs Elementary, because my kindergartner goes there and it's amazing.
I'm so glad to hear that. I love that. I love it when people have great experiences.
The whole school, I love everybody in there, and I'm just so grateful for that.
Heather, do you just have one child, a kindergartner, or do you have more kids?
Gosh, I have 5 boys, and they're spread out in 1, 2, 3, 4 schools. So
wow, you're busy.
But we love every one of them, all the schools that they're in.
That's great.
We feel really lucky about that. But my concern is things for the younger children is recess. And I don't know if this is the right place or time to talk about that. But I feel like for a kindergartner, I know that they get about 10 to 15 minutes a day. And for him especially, it's at the very end of the day before dismissal.
Okay.
That's a great question.
Yeah, Heather, and this is Will Pinkston. I'll address that, and actually the person who is most qualified on the board to address that question is my board member, Amy Froeg, who represents West Nashville. She's been a real champion on the board for increasing playtime for kids in our early grades. She knows this, and we know this, that there is a recognized tie between playtime and physical activity and academic improvement for kids at a young age. They just need to have that time, and we need to be doing a better job making that time available. A lot of this gets down to instructional time, but it also gets into issues like testing. You know, we're trying to reduce the amount of testing time so that we create more opportunities for our kids to really enjoy the great outdoors. And as you know this as a Smith Springs parent, but other people may not know this, the Smith Springs Elementary School is very unique in as much as it has a partnership with Camp Widgiewagon, the YMCA property that backs up to the school property and vice versa. So there's an actual partnership between the school and the camp staff to take the kids over onto the camp, let them do outdoor learning activities as part of playtime, like identifying leaves and vegetation and wildlife. And so these kids are getting a really extraordinary experience at Smith Springs Elementary School. I wish we could do that at all of our schools, but every school has something unique, and every school needs to be focused on that playtime. And by the way, Heather, I'm proud to represent Smith Springs Elementary School on the school board. It's not every day that you get to open a new school and preside over the opening. They called us founders. So I'm a founder of Smith Springs Elementary, as is every taxpayer in the city, and we're really proud of that school, and I hope you're enjoying the experience.
Thank you, Heather. So we have Sydney Pritchard next up. Sydney, are you there with your question for the mayor and Will Pinkston?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Sydney?
Yes. Hi.
Yes, go ahead with your question.
This question is both to both Mayor Berry and Mr. Pinkston, or School Board Member Pinkston, and it's in regard to the youth engagement, both in this process and things continuing on in the school district and the city of Nashville. So I was wondering, going forward, what the plans would be to involve the youth more in both the things that are going on in the city and both the search and what we would like to see in a school board director and the actual decision-making process for a school board director, because I feel like our students are oftentimes our biggest stakeholders that sometimes get overlooked in decisions like this. I was wondering what going forward are y'all and other elected officials going to do to better engage both the youth and the entire youth community surrounding both this decision and other decisions that affect the city and primarily affect the youth that graduate from metro schools.
So, Sydney, this is Mayor Berry. Let me take the broader perspective on youth engagement. And through the mayor's office, we actually have a youth council where we engage with youth across the city to help generate innovative new ideas. We recently brought together, as part of our mayor's youth summit on youth violence, 400 high school students to Rocketown to talk specifically about what they need. And they talked to each other. It wasn't adults talking to them. It was them talking to each other. And I think the best quote that came out of that for me was one young man who mentioned the fact that, what we ask of our youth so often is to walk a tightrope, and that those youth are going to oftentimes fall off of that tightrope, so they need a safety net. And creating that safety net for youth, be it as part of a jobs opportunity, an internship, a sport, whatever that is, where they can engage with the community in a more broad sense, is going to be impactful to reducing youth violence. It's also going to be impactful for that youth. So, that's the broad city perspective, but let Will talk a minute about the actual director's search on that.
Yeah, and I want to stop and just say a word about Sydney, our caller. Sydney is one of our outstanding soon-to-be graduates at Hume-Fogg High School and president of the NAACP Youth Council. So, Sydney, thanks for the work that you're doing.
I know you, Sydney.
Yeah. You know, Sydney. So, Sydney, the last year when we were going through the search, the beginnings of it, we did some pretty high levels of community engagement. We did town hall forums with the candidates who emerged at that time, and there were student participation in those events, and we expect there will be that again. This time, as we rethink that process, the community engagement piece, as the director search proceeds, I'm going to insist, and I think other board members will agree, that we do more student engagement. We did okay last time, but we can do better this time. So to answer your question, there will be opportunities for students to be involved in the director search and to provide the board members with feedback and input prior to us making our decision on who to hire for the next director of schools.
Great. Thank you, Sydney. We have James Cliff from the Priest Lake area. James, are you there?
I am. I'm here.
Hey, can you go ahead and ask your question?
Yeah, my question is this right here. On the new director that we are looking for, I don't have a good understanding on what is the basis of a charter school, a STEM school, or versus metro public school. Now, I did hear that the public schools funds the charter school. Now, if you're getting the same measure of education, it seems like to me the money would stay in the public school where more of the students are going. I don't have a clear understanding, and I want to know if someone there can explain what the difference is. And if it's a better education, then everyone should be having an opportunity. And I don't know how you get into STEM school or how you get into charter schools. Can someone explain that?
Yeah, sure. I'll take a crack at it, James. Thank you for the question. It's a good question. Just to re-summarize the question, what's the difference between charter schools and our traditional schools, and how does the funding work? And also, I think there's a question about STEM schools. So let me take the easiest part of the question first. A STEM school is an acronym. In education, everything has to have an acronym, and STEM stands for science, technology, engineering, and math. So there are some schools that are both traditional schools and charter schools that have STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math as an academic focus. The difference between charter schools and traditional schools and how they interact with each other in terms of the budget is a complicated question. Charter schools, as I said earlier, are publicly financed but privately run schools that serve our public school students. Students and families may have chosen charter schools for different reasons. Maybe it was a unique academic program. Maybe it was a school that was closer to mom or dad's work, and so it was easier for the family to organize drop-offs and pickups. And oftentimes there is a perception that charter schools are doing a better job than some traditional schools. That's not necessarily the case. Some charter schools are doing great work, just like some of our traditional schools are doing great work. And then there are some charter schools that are struggling, just like on the other side of the equation. What the board is focused on and what the next director needs to be focused on is making sure that all of our schools are doing great and that we really refocus on our existing schools, be they traditional or other, and make sure that they've got the resources and supports that they need to get the job done. And a lot of this is, frankly, it's going to come back to resources from the state level. I've been a leading advocate for increased state funding for Metro Nashville Public Schools. We are not getting our fair share, and we need to be more aggressively pursuing that conversation with the legislature and with the governor's office. We're a school system that's ranked 54th out of 67 urban school systems in America when it comes to per pupil funding. A big part is just, frankly, lack of adequate state funding. So resources aren't the only issue, but they sure do help when they're there. So thank you for the question, James. And just as a reminder, before we go to the next question, if you do have a question, please press 0, and we'll try to get you in the time remaining that we have.
So we have, I think, Sally on the line next. Sally Gentry. Can you hear us, Sally?
Hi, yes, I am. Thank you for, number one, having a town hall meeting by telephone, which includes a lot of other people who wouldn't ordinarily be involved. I think that's an absolute excellent way to communicate, and I want to thank you both for participation. My question is basically, how can people like myself who do not have children in private or public schools assist in forming more of a citywide or even neighborhood constituency to help improve the schools where they might live or where the ones that are in most need of help?
Sally, it's a great question, and there's a big conversation going on in public education right now about how we improve parent involvement in the schools, which is critical, but involving the broader community is absolutely every bit as critical as well. There are a number of organizations around town, organizations like Alignment Nashville and the Pencil Foundation that do a good job engaging with volunteers, with companies that want to either give time or money to the schools, but where the school system has not done as good of a job as it could and should is engaging with the broader community, and it helps not just community engagement around how do we get people into the schools to be helpful, whether it's volunteer readers or people, neighborhood associations who can come in and build community gardens on the grounds, which are another kind of exciting part about getting kids outdoors, but also how we engage the community around complicated issues like where we build new schools and how we draw school zone lines. So your outreach, and I see that you're calling, you're in the Green Hills area, your outreach is much appreciated. The part of town that I primarily represent is South Nashville, which is the Nolensville Road Corridor, and then upper southeast Nashville out toward Percy Priest Lake. There are some areas of the school system where, frankly, we've just got parents who are working 2 or 3 jobs just to put food on the table in some areas, and those are the areas that really, really do need community attention from all parts of the community. So, Sally, I've made a note here to reach back out to you, and I've got your number, obviously, so I'm going to, if it's okay with you, call you and figure out how best we could put your talents to use. And I really do appreciate the question. Mayor, do you have anything to add here?
Well, I was just going to say, Sally, thank you for stepping up and saying that you want to help. I mean, that's the one thing that makes Nashville such a great place to be, which is when there are problems out there, I really feel that people say, what can I do to make a difference? And the fact that you're saying that, whether it ends up you picking up a book and reading to a child or helping to tutor a child or just being an advocate for public schools in our community, all of those are important. So thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Sally.
And again, press 0 if you have a question you'd like to ask the mayor or me about public education or the director's search.
Teresa Wagner, are you online now to be able to talk with the mayor and Will Pinkston?
I sure am.
Hello.
Hey, Will. Hey, Will. Hey, Megan.
Hey.
So, long time no chat.
That's right.
My question tonight is, has the school board determined a timeline to actually open up for applicants to apply for the position? And the second part of my question is, will any of the applicants from last summer, obviously excluding the one who turned us down, will any of the applicants last summer be invited to re-enter the process and reapply? Because I know that there was at least one applicant that a lot of us were very excited about, and a lot of us would still love to see reapply and be reconsidered.
Yeah, thanks for the question, Terry. On the question of timeline, right now, the mayor mentioned the search firm led by a gentleman named Jim Huey. Jim has been communicating with each of the board members individually as well as with the working group that includes the mayor's office and the Public Education Foundation. Jim right now is actively, all he's doing right now is making calls, going to visit candidates, and he's running a very active recruitment operation, which is different than what we saw last time around. It was, I'd say, on the board floor, what we had last time was more of a resume intake operation. Yeah. This one is more is a talent recruitment operation. So his intention is to get a slate of candidates to the board for consideration sometime probably in late April, possibly early May. With that slate will come extensive information on each of the candidates, maybe a half dozen candidates, extensive information, dossiers, not just resumes, but like extensive research information based on where they've come from and what they've done in their previous stop in life and throughout their career. And then from then, we'll go into a very active process that will be similar to what you saw last time with those community town halls. And of course, just promised Sydney we're going to have more students involved. But really late April, early May is prime time in this. I'll say from my perspective, it's an open search, and Jim has promised us that would be. So anybody who wants to reapply ought to be able to do that and be considered along with the other candidates who emerge.
Yep. And I think it's important on the timeline piece to just, one of the things that we have to do is we have to have that slate of potential candidates to the school board for consideration, because that school board has to make a decision 90 days before the election. So I think that puts us at the middle of June, right?
45 days, actually.
45 days.
Yeah.
So, okay. So it's ticking. We need to do that. But Terry, great to hear from you. Thank you.
Thank you, Terry.
Thanks, Terry.
Next, we have Carolyn Hatcher. Carolyn Hatcher from Una and Antioch.
Great.
Yes.
Hi, Carolyn.
Yes. How are you doing tonight? I'm very excited to be included in this polling system. I would just like to say I have two grandchildren, that go to Mount View, and I'm concerned because of the portables. I do not like the portables. I'm a Tennessean, and I never seen the portables before. And we have that beautiful area across from Mount View. And I'm hoping the new director will utilize that and build a mega school. As you well know, Antioch is growing, and we need to get rid of the portables. And we need more help in the classroom. I like public school. I'm not a charter school or
we all like public
person. And I just want to see them grow and get better. It can be done. I'm a world traveler. I've seen it. I've seen it in Japan, in Miami, and in Jacksonville. The school system works well when you open the table about building. We have to have new and better schools. Not to put the music city down, but I'd like to see a school in Antioch to the mega of Clover Croft Elementary. I went to Clover Croft Elementary in Franklin, Tennessee, and it looks like it's an elementary school, and it looks like a junior college. So I know if, so you know what I'm talking about. That's excellent.
Sure. Carolyn,
Thank you, Carolyn.
let me try to answer that question. I'll take the first cut. Let me start by saying something about our mayor. Our mayor, before serving as our mayor, served for 8 years on the Metro Council, and as you know, the council is in charge of approving, the mayor's office and the council are in charge of approving capital expenditures to help us renovate schools and build new schools. And the mayor, during her time on the council, was a great champion of school construction and reconstruction, including one of the new schools we talked about earlier on this call, Smith Springs Elementary, which was designed to alleviate the kind of overcrowding that's going on in southeast Davidson County and get rid of some of those portables. The issue we've got is the Nashville is booming, as we know, in terms of population, and most of that growth is happening in that part of town where you're talking about. So we're behind on that, but I have a good sense that we're getting caught up, and with our mayor, who is a great champion of public education, and a council who's going to be very supportive of helping us keep up with this as well, I feel like we're going to make some headway here in the next few years. Mayor?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, clearly getting kids out of portables is really important. In fact, one of the schools that I was recently at where we did a ribbon cutting, Tusculum, has, I think, 20 portables in their back, and trying to get those kids into a new school by renovating the current school is a process, but I'm absolutely committed to trying to give as much dollars as we possibly can to alleviate that overcrowding. So thank you for asking that question. Looks like
we have
time for one more.
Yeah, one more. We have J.C. Bowman.
Hey, thank you. Yes, thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Will, for hosting this. This was incredible. Some of your other callers have said thank you. And I have a question for you. Jill Spearing asked a very important question in her interview process last summer on reading. I think it's very critical that the next superintendent comes in and has a thorough, because that's really, like they say, the reading is fundamental. But the other thing you have to address is dyslexia, and 1 in 5 kids has dyslexia, and I think that's one of the things that goes untreated, especially among communities of color. And so I would really encourage you to push for that. And then the second part of it I had is I really hope that we've gone through enough reform in Tennessee. I think all of us can agree with that. And so I hope the next superintendent or next superintendent that you bring in has a real good running knowledge of Tennessee law and understands what's going on, so we don't create havoc or chaos with teachers and even some parents and stuff like that. So those are my 2 points, and I cannot thank you enough, Will, for doing this.
Well, thank you, JC. I'll take the reading part first, and then maybe the mayor and I can talk about state laws and how
we don't have enough time.
JC mentioned Jill Spearing, my board colleague Jill Spearing from Madison. I tell people around town that we have one of the greatest natural resources on our school board that any school board in America has, which is we have a school board member who was a career teacher. She was a reading intervention specialist. There's no bigger advocate for early grade reading intervention, not just in the city, but in the state and probably the country, than Jill Spearing. And she's really been driving an extraordinary conversation around that issue as chairman of our teaching and learning committee. We had a committee meeting where we had a uniquely focused conversation about early grade reading a couple of weeks ago, and I walked out of there thinking this was the best meeting I've been in my entire time on the board. It was that productive and that enlightening. And I said earlier in the call, I'm very optimistic, and I think that prioritizing reading where it needs to be, and also working with partners like the Dollar General Literacy Foundation, which focuses most of its work in rural areas, given where it operates. But they're a great resource sitting right here in our backyard, and we need to do a better job engaging them and asking for advice, expertise, and support. And we'll make sure the director prioritizes that. And then, JC, I know you also mentioned dyslexia. It's a topic like so many other exceptional education issues that we need to do a better job addressing. So I won't claim that we're doing everything we need to do, but we need to do better. Mayor, you want to talk for a minute about state laws and not just in the school system, but how they affect all of us?
Like I said, we don't have enough time. But I think, Will, what we are always conscious about is what can we do from a local perspective to get done what we need done and not worry about what's happening at the state level or the federal level for that matter. We have to make sure that we're educating the kids that are challenged in our public schools, and that means making sure we have the resources to do it. And sometimes that means making sure that we go and find those resources if we don't have them. Is that what you're talking about, Will?
That's right.
I'm just guessing. But I know that there's several more folks in the queue, and I just want to say I got to go because I have another event, but I cannot thank you enough for this technology. This technology is amazing, and being able to sit here, Will, with you tonight and to participate, because we've heard from students, we've heard from parents, we've heard from, I think, maybe even a teacher, and clearly from taxpayers about their commitment to public education. And as the mayor, I'm absolutely committed to this, Will, and I want to just say thank you for your efforts. You do a yeoman's job every day on making sure that we're moving that needle forward, and you absolutely have a servant's heart. You do this because you serve, and you want Nashville to be a great place, so thank you for that.
Thank you, Mayor. That means a lot. It really does. So we have reached the end of our time together tonight, and I want to just thank the mayor again for being here, but also for the partnership. We've got an exciting moment in the city where the mayor, the council, the school board, we're all rowing in the same direction, and we're going to keep doing that. I appreciate everyone who stayed on the line for the entire call. I know we're talking about important issues, but we also know everyone has family and other priorities to tend to tonight. I want to wrap up by saying if any of you have questions or need more information about Metro Nashville Public Schools, do not hesitate to call or email me. My phone number and email address are on the school system's website, but let me just say them out loud. My phone number is 615-298-5787. You can email me at will@Pinkston4Schools, PINKSTONFOR, schools, plural.com. And then also, you can always call the school system. We've got a great customer service operation at 615-259-INFO. And like I said earlier, please check out the position paper I've written called What We Need from the Next Director of Schools by going to MNPSnext.org. thank you for everyone for your participation tonight, and thank you especially for your support of public education. Have a great evening.
Good night.
This concludes tonight's telephone town hall with Mayor Megan Barry, School Board Member Will Pinkston. Thank you all so much for joining us, and have a good evening.